Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Rich Woman Rising. I'm your host, Eloise Tompkins, and I'm a money mindset coach and psychologist. And I love helping women release their fears so that they can make money in their business without constant hustling, without those long work weeks, without thinking that you need to get more clients and work longer and harder. I want you to be able to live your dream life. And I do that in a way where I help you reprogram your subconscious money blocks. And today, I want to have a bit of a chat with you about fear and what happens if you don't work on your fear and you just let it consume you for the rest of your life. And I really hope that that's not the case because that would really suck. My fear is such a block in so many people's lives and so many before I kind of did my own healing journey and all of that. And God, that sounds so wanky. When I started my healing journey, but really it is a fucking journey because there's no I'm done moment. There is no moment in your journey where you're like, that's it, I'm done, I'm healed, everything's like hunky-dory and perfect. However, there is a moment where if you don't go on that journey, you can really regret it. And I have had the privilege of working as a psychologist with a lot of people at the end of their life. I used to work in a setting where I would see a lot of older people, and some of those people that I would work with would not necessarily know it, but they would be at the tail end of their life. And what I mean by that is there would be health stuff that was going on for them that was quite serious, and they were kind of a little bit in denial, which is understandable, I guess. You know, often we don't want to think about death. And I know that's kind of a morbid topic. However, I think it's really important to think about because I think, like money, we don't often talk about money, we don't often talk about death. But I don't want to talk about death necessarily. I want to talk about, well, maybe I do. I take that back. Maybe I kind of do because I think that a lot of the stuff that I would see when working with these clients who were at their final stages were talking about things that they regretted in their life. And there was a lot of regret, a lot of wishing that they had lived life differently, wishing that they had done things differently. And it's really difficult when you're in those final stages because you can't change the past. You can't do anything differently. And the time to do things differently is now, is not in 40 years when you don't have time. It's not even in 10 years' time when you think, oh, well, when I just get X, Y, Z under control, then I'll be able to do things differently. No, there's time to do things differently now. You can change your life now because when you end up in your final stages of life, how do you want to look back on your life? What do you want to say? What do you want to have experienced? What's the kind of legacy that you want to have left behind? What do you want people to say about you? Because you get to control that. Maybe not what other people say about you, but you get to control your experience between now and that moment. We don't have to live a life of regret. And the reason that so many of those clients that I worked with did have regrets is because they were fucking scared. And they would say that. They would say, oh, I wish I wasn't so scared to have done whatever it was. But I was. And they're looking at it from a very rational perspective at this point in time. And I think that's, something really interesting to reflect on because, and if you've been listening to this podcast, you'll know that the rational mind and the emotional mind uh, don't like talking to each other. particularly when the emotional mind is very switched on. It can be really hard to tap into the rational mind. So it's very easy to kind of look back in those moments and say, well, I wish I did it differently. I wish I wasn't so scared of that. But when we're in that fear state, it's really, really difficult to just do something different. I hate the saying, feel the fear and do it anyway. I think that's a fucking crock of shit. How about you work through your fear? How about you reprogram your fear? Because you don't have to have that much fear. How about we reprogram it to a level where it's no longer like consuming you? Anyway, I digress. Because I think that you have a choice now. You get a really, really powerful choice while you still have time. You get a choice of whether you want to go on that wanky healing journey or whether you choose to stay the same and stay on the same path and say, oh, later, next time, one day. That's on you. So, what choice are you going to make? And yeah, it's scary. It's really, really, really scary when you make that decision to do something different and step out of the familiar into the unfamiliar. Like, yeah, it fucking sucks. Like, and it's funny because, like, when I was working as a psychologist, I would have clients that would, they would say things to me like, Ellie, sometimes I don't know why I started this healing journey. There's a part of me that wishes I just stayed on the same path because now I've gone on this healing journey. I can't unsee everything that I've uncovered. And there's a part of me that wants to go back to the safety and familiarity of the old way of being. The thing is, though, they would always come to the realization that both paths were hard. And the path of staying the same was never the one that they would choose again, even though the new path was also hard in a different way. And I think it's that thing, like life is going to be hard no matter which way you look at it. And not all parts of life are going to be the same kind of hard. And life in general isn't going to be, constantly pushing shit uphill. There are joyful moments, there are pleasurable moments, but there is always going to be challenges that we need to overcome, problems that we need to solve. And being able to do that from a place of, well, I know that I'm living in alignment with the life that I want to leave, with the legacy that I want to leave behind, rather than kind of trying to push aside all of this fear and overwhelm and anxiety that we're constantly feeling. Like, which path would you rather? I know what path I would rather. And like, that's the path of, well, okay, let's have less fear and live a life that's in alignment. So that when I get to my end of time, I'll be able to look back on my life and be like, yeah, you know what? I did a pretty good job. I made the most of my life. Maybe it wasn't perfect, but I had a pretty good run. I lived it to its fullest. And I'm really proud of myself for that. And I think for me, that's what I want. I want to get to a point where when I die, I want to feel proud. Proud that I was able to challenge these pre-programmed beliefs, these pre-programmed experiences, these programmed subconscious experiences that formed my life trajectory from a very young age. I want to be proud of the fact that I said no to that. No, thank you. That life, just because that's the easy path, that life is not for me. I don't want that. And that takes a lot of guts and a lot of courage to do that. And if you're listening to this podcast, then you probably have already done that in a lot of ways, which is really cool when you think about it. And if you're listening to this podcast, then there's probably a part of you that could also continue aligning. And so in that case, what is that needs some more aligning? It's already on the right track, How can we get it a little bit more aligned so that you don't have regrets? So that you can look back on your life and be like, fuck yes, I nailed this. Life was really great. How good would that be? And then, like think about it. If you're doing that now and you're making those choices now, what are you role modeling to people around you? Like I know friends of mine who are in relationships that make them miserable, but they stay there because it's comfortable. And you probably have experiences like that yourself, like with it, well, maybe even yourself in that situation, or seeing other people around you being in these situations that just feel comfortable. And even though they're comfortable, they would rather be in that situation than do something different. Because that fear of doing something different, the fear of the unknown, the fear of, well, what if it doesn't work out as well as? But what if it works out even better? We often, our brain likes to go down the negative what ifs. What if it doesn't work out? What if it fails? What if my life is worse? We never really go to the opposite though of, well, what if my life turns out even better than expected if I take that risk? What if my current partner isn't the right fit for me, even though we might have a kid together? And what if there's someone even better out there for me? What if I do want to create a 7-figure business and then am able to achieve this lifestyle that I've only been dreaming of up until now? The possibilities are endless, and being able to shift our what ifs from the negative what ifs to the positives, or at least introduce some of the positives so that we're getting a little bit of a balance. Like, how cool is that? Because what I don't want for you is to regret your life. But the decisions that we're making today are essentially the decisions that will leave us on our deathbed going, wow, I lived a really fucking good life. Or I wish I did things differently. But you can't go back in time at that point and change things. That's on us now. And I wanted to share that with you because it's something I think about a lot. It's something that I think about when I experience my own fear, when I think about my goals for my life, when I think about what I want moving forward. I think, well, I only get one life. I do. I only get one life and I want to make the most of it. So how can I do that? And when I think about the fear, like, yeah, sometimes I can be really fucking uncomfortable to be with in the moment. Absolutely. Then I make a choice. Well, what am I going to do with that? Am I going to get hooked into that story and just say, yeah, it's too hard. I'm not going to do anything about it because it's too hard. It feels really uncomfortable. Or am I going to do something different? All of those are like micro choices that you get to make day to day. I've spoken about the millionaire mindset before, and having a millionaire mindset is really about those micro choices that you do get to make. And you get to make them. Like, how cool is that? Each day, you get to make these choices. And the cool thing is that over time, those choices accumulate. And the more and more that we're making choices that align to our values and align to our goals, the closer we get to living that dream life, having the things that we want, reprogramming our fears, and getting to death's door and saying, wow, what an epic life. So I just wanted to share that with you. I know this is a little bit of a random thought process. It's been something though that does just sit with me. And I think for me, it was really being with those clients uh, in those stages of life where they're really vulnerable and were just trying to make sense of all of these past experiences that they had had because in their mind, they were a different person. They thought they were a different person. And then it was only when they got to the end of their life where they were like, oh, maybe I wasn't. Maybe I was living in some other reality where I was thinking that this was how my life was playing out. But now that I'm here, now that I don't have time anymore, I'm realizing that the life that I thought I had wasn't really the life that I wanted. And I think we need to bring conscious awareness to those micro decisions each day so that we don't end up at this point of just kind of living on autopilot. And I've spoken about that before, living on autopilot. Because when we can take accountability for the choices that we're making, the life that we want to live, and the legacy that we want to leave behind, like, man, that's powerful. So I hope this has inspired you to think about what it is that you are aspiring to and what those choices and decisions are day to day that are getting you closer to your goal and letting you live the life that you want to be living today so that you can be proud of yourself and don't end up with a life, of regret. So those are my wisdoms for today. Thank you for listening, and I will check in with you next week and hopefully talk about something a little bit more uplifting than death and money and life. That being said, I think it's important that we open up topics to conversations like these because just like money, we don't talk about it. And then our subconscious kicks in and it leaves us at a point where we can't do anything about it. And I just think that is not okay. So hopefully this has inspired you to think about the ways that you can take action in the here and now. Alrighty, until next time. Bye.